Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate Investor Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andressa.
Raising private money, multifamily investing, and syndications is a very hot topic in real estate investing circles. This topic can feel overwhelming at times for all of us real estate investors. Well, in today's episode, Jillian Sidoti, one of the nation's leading experts on crowdfunding and syndication, breaks down this huge topic for us. She shares tons of useful information, including the biggest mistakes when raising private money, how to vet an actual syndicator, and the number one place to find private money. Welcome back, ladies. This is Liz.
And this is Andressa.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Investor Show, where we're on a mission to support women investors in this amazing business that can have highs and lows called real estate investing, right? It's not all roses and sunshine, you know? So welcome, Jillian, to our show. We're really excited to have her on the show to share some amazing knowledge with us. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to jumping into some great topics here. Before we go there, we always kind of like to get connected to all of you listening, and we really appreciate you listening. I am going to do a quick shameless plug that, it'd be awesome if you do love our show to leave us a review. That always helps, kind of just share what we're up to with other great women out there. That's what we're on a mission to do. So if you can do that. And the thing that I really wanted to mention to all of you out there today was the power of networking. And are you actively networking offline and online? And I think in this age that we're in, we just get caught up in our own lives. And it's hard with, nighttime and kids and families and activities. But I went to a networking event last night, and I was sitting by these two women, and we were chatting, and they were just, it was just so nice to talk with them. And I forget that. I connect with women online and all that good stuff. But I just, seeing people and connecting with them. And we met some great investors last night, a couple that we just really respect. So just time well spent. I got a babysitter. It was a lot of coordination,
That's
right?
great. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, coordination. It's not as easy. And I would recommend check out, we have Invest Her meetups. We have 6 of them. We're on a path to have a lot more, but we're creating meetups around the country for women to connect with other women in this business. And we're looking for leaders. We're looking for women, to come out to these ones. We have Philly and Kansas, Texas, more on the way. So just, go to meetup.com, put Invest Her in there, and invest her, and then you should get the list. So again, most importantly, get out there, get involved, something in person that you're getting value from, business related, real estate related. I just want to encourage ladies to do that. And if, once a month, once every other month, but do something out there.
100%.
So just wanted to share that. So without further ado, Jillian, thanks again for being on our show. You're an investor, you're, SEC attorney. So you have a tremendous amount of experience and sharing things that we pay some amazing lawyers like all of you to help us with because we don't know.
Well, thank you for having me. I love this. There's not a lot of women focused podcasts out there. So that's sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we like to do with our guests and the women that we have on the show, what compelled you, and you are both, you have the investor hat, you have the attorney hat on, what compelled you to get involved in this business? When that was, and how did it kind of pull you in terms of really this area of real estate investments?
Actually, I had poverty. I mean, I don't want to ever say that I knew what poverty was, because that's really insulting to people who actually live in poverty. But I did have a moment of financial distress that really kind of opened my eyes on what I was doing in life. I had dropped out of law school to start a record label, and I financed it on my credit card. And doing that, I just spiraled into into debt, and just was never able to pick myself up out of that hole. And there was a moment in time during that where I realized this cannot be the correct way to finance a business. This cannot be the way people make money. This just can't, there's got to be a better way. So I went back to law school, but at the time when I was going back to law school, I kind of knew I didn't want to be a lawyer. I really didn't like other attorneys, to be perfectly honest. I didn't like the people I was going to, and that I'm being very general right now because I still have some really dear friends from law school, but there were a lot of people I did not like. You know, lawyers don't become jerks. They usually start off being jerks. I learned that very quickly. And I just knew I didn't want to be in that environment. So, in this struggle of like, okay, I have no money. I dropped out of law school. I don't really want to be a lawyer. What am I going to do? So I actually went back to law school for the sake of finishing it. And at that time, I went around to every real estate investing firm in San Diego and asked them for a job. You know, I'll file for you. I'll do your books, because I have a degree in finance as well. And I just said, I'll answer your phones, whatever you want me to do. I just want to learn the business of real estate. And one company in San Diego took a chance on me and allowed me to start doing their books, and some other things. And then I started just doing all their financing, getting the bank loans, getting the private investors, the whole entire thing. And that's how I kind of got into it.
Wow. And walk me through from that point to where you are at right now, right? Because syndication deals, crowdfunding deals are large scale, very detailed, hard work. What is the transition looks like?
Well, it's funny because I thought it was just kind of what you did. I didn't know there was this whole world of real estate education out there when I went around, you know, begging for a job. It's crazy. And I wouldn't have been able to afford it anyhow, because at that time, you know, I already had a ton of student loans for, you know, school. So I went into the top type of real estate you could get into. We were in condo conversions. So not only were we syndicating, you know, apartment buildings, we were bringing them down to the studs, remapping them, and then redesigning the whole thing so that we could sell off the individual units. And it took a ton of capital. So I started just, you know, going around and seeing, you know, does anybody want to invest? We started off with traditional bank loans and 100% financing, because this was in 2004, 2005 when you could do that. And so I got all this traditional financing. We ran out of that money, so we went to hard money. And then when we went from hard money, we just started asking people, hey, do you want to invest? And Gene Trowbridge, I met him at a CCIM event, actually told me, you can't just go around asking people for money. So that's how I learned this whole thing. And my transition came during the downturn, because in 2007, when things started to look like, we could just see the writing on the wall. We could see the horizon. It wasn't looking very good. We saw the storm clouds. So late 2006, we just started selling off all the properties. Anything we could get rid of, any earnest money deposits. One thing I'll say about my boss at that company, he really had a certain level of calm about him in a storm where calm, you know, didn't, a lot of people weren't calm, and he wasn't calm too, and neither was I. No one was really calm, but he did have some really rational thoughts. And one of those rational thoughts was, I'm going to give up this $100,000 deposit on this building. And to me, who was, you know, had no money at the time, didn't even know really what $100,000 looked like, thought, you can't do that. You can't get it. Just buy the property. Just buy the property. And he's like, Jillian, giving up $100,000 is better than losing $300,000. And it didn't make sense until many years later, of course. But when that happened and we sold off the properties, I didn't really have a job anymore. So I just started looking for people who need it. Now that I had this, I was on the other side of the equation where I had done our own syndications and I had learned this, feet to the fire. I started doing it for other people and just finding people who needed help with their syndications. And I started off doing, back in 2007, doing private placement memorandums for $1,500.
Wow.
But I will say this.
That's a deal.
Wow,
that's a deal.
You totally got if you bought a $1,500 VPM from me, you got exactly what you deserved.
Oh my gosh.
And they were not good. So I'm just praying and thanking the good Lord that I did not get sued for practice back in the day. So yeah.
Doesn't hurt.
That's great. That's great. So true though. You do get what you pay for. That is words of wisdom. So I love your journey. Your journey is like amazing. And I think what you're saying makes so much sense around, I love the idea of you just making it happen. You made it happen. You had an incredible challenge and then you pushed through and then you kind of fell into this and then you created, kind of lemonade out of lemon. So your expertise in terms of private money. And when Jean said, you can't go around asking for money the way you are, we started with friends and family, our own money, and we've, grown our business through private money. And there's a lot around that, right? Especially from a legal perspective. So, love to pick your brain, around what do you find to be the biggest mistakes investors make? And it's not just syndication, right? Because quite honestly, most investors are going to start just like we did. It was a non-syndicated deal. It's 2 single family homes. We were 50-50 partners with the, person who put the money up. It was and it passed the 4 prongs that Jean teaches. I'm sure you guys do. So, and don't ask me what those 4 are, but I know that there are 4 and I know Matt knows them. So, but,
at least one of you knows them.
That's right. It's so educational. I've learned so much vicariously through him, through Jean. So, but most importantly, people are going to want to get in and they're going to, oh, you got the money. Great. We'll buy the property. What are the things that investors make, the mistakes they make when they start going down the private money path, if you will? Because it's a path and it doesn't start with crowdfunding. It starts with a small deal usually. And it should, quite honestly. But so what have you found? What have you seen to be the biggest mistakes?
Yeah, you can make this mistake at any level. And I see this mistake being made all the time. And that's the mistake of offering more than you have to. And it's not offering more than you can afford to pay. It's offering more than you have to. And sometimes the afford to pay goes hand in hand with the have to. So everybody believes that investors need like a certain return, and that's not necessarily true. Now, there's going to be some investors who say, no, I need to have a higher rate of return for it to fit my investment criteria. But it really, in these kinds of deals, in these private security deals, it really has very little to do with the return on investment and much more to do with your relationship with the investor and how the investor feels about you and the real estate industry, not the specific property you're investing in, but the real estate industry or real estate market, if you will, as a whole. So what do you offer investors? And there's a real simple formula for this. And this is the formula you should always default to. And I should trademark this formula.
There you go. You heard it here, ladies. You heard it here first.
Yeah, okay. So the formula is this. You start with how much is this property going to make? How much do I believe this property is going to make? Then you say, I, the sponsor, the person doing all the work, my time is worth Y. So if X is the amount of money the property is going to make and Y is what you need to make, and you subtract Y from X and there's a negative number, you shouldn't do the deal. Number one. And I think this is where people screw up. Notice I didn't talk about how much you need to pay the investors, then how much the deal is going to make, and then this is what you're going to make is left over. That's not how it should work. You need to think about how much do you need to make to make this worth your time. That is number one, because if you're not sufficiently motivated to work, everybody's going to be unhappy. You, your investors, everyone. So you have to, I'm not telling you to always think about yourself first. I'm telling you, when you're planning this, you need to think about yourself first, because otherwise the whole thing's going to fall apart. It really will. So how much is the property going to make? Less how much you personally need to make you happy, to keep you motivated, to keep your bills paid. Then you're going to come up with, your Z. So X minus Y equals Z. That Z is the number we can work from now. But that's not the number you can pay your investors. Z is not your number you can pay investors. What you next need to come up with is a contingency. Yes. Because we have to remember Murphy's Law, right? So,
no idea what you're talking about.
Murphy always enters into every situation. So we take our Z and then we put in a 20% cushion, 10, 15, 20% cushion. Then that's the number you can offer your investors. So then you can say to your investors, and we'll use a real life example. We believe this project's going to make 20%. Me, the sponsor, I need to make 10%. That leaves 10% left over. I'm going to put a 20% contingency in there. That leaves 8% that I can pay my investors. So, and then that's what you would offer your investors. No more than that. That is the most you should offer your investors. And that's it.
Nice. I am, one of the books that I just finished reading is called Peak, and talks about Maslow. Yeah, okay.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it mentions exactly what you're talking about. The investor, there are several types of investors, and you need to understand which type he or she is and fulfill that need. If he's an investor that really need that return of, 15, 20%, whatever that is, that's one type of investor. There are other investors that will care about the legacy. Those investors will not care about the return itself. It's just a legacy. They're invested on that community. They want, to see a change. So it's very tied to what you're talking to. I think on the other side, on our community, we have a lot of ladies that are being approached right now, and they don't know how to do their due diligence with folks that are making the offer. So what would you say it's their first steps to understand or evaluate if a deal is a good fit for them?
So you're talking about it, and by the way, I want to write that book down. You said it's called Peak?
Yes.
I always keep a list of books to read. So.
Oh, this is so good. I mean, I have like a ton. It's called Peak.
Awesome. So, all right, awesome. I got that down. So, So when you're talking about this, you're saying like a lady is being approached to invest, and what should she be looking for?
Yes, a sponsor, somebody putting a PPM together and saying, here's what we have, a relationship already established. So I have this opportunity here, but she doesn't have that long-term relationship. They have a conversation, they started, but how can she evaluate a deal and walk, like if you check the marks and see if that's a deal for her or not? What will be their...
That's a great question. So the first thing is always try to sniff out desperation. If somebody seems desperate, that is not a good sign. Do not invest. And you know what, the other side of that, I say to anybody who's trying to raise money, don't be desperate. There's, all money is green, but not all investors are created equal. So choose wisely who you choose as your investors, just like your investors are trying to choose wisely on what they're investing in. Number one. So look at how desperate the recipient or the sponsor is. And if there's any sign of desperation whatsoever, run away as fast as you can. The second part is is this sponsor painting like a super rosy picture, or are they being real with you? Are they telling you these are the risks associated with investing? Are they presenting you with a written document? If they're not even spending the time to get you a legally sound document to memorialize the investment opportunity, don't even bother. Like, don't even bother. The other thing is too, background check people. Don't be afraid to background check. Don't find it to be like this invasion. You're giving them your money. Background check these people. Why not? If you don't really know them, do yourself a favor and background check them. And you can tell them, I'm going to background check you. And anybody who's sincerely, a sponsor or is serious about this business isn't going to care.
Yeah.
And they might say like, oh, okay, well, before you background check me, I do want to let you know, I had a DUI 5 years ago. I was going through a rough time or whatever. They might reveal some things to you. But if they get overly squirrely about getting background checked, then it's not a deal for you. So those are the three things I would start with. Number one, are they desperate? Number two, did they provide you with proper legal documentation? And number three, are you brave enough to run a background check?
I love that. And we hear a lot too, Jillian, on the our Facebook community and just in conversations we have with ladies. They really want to get into apartment buildings, right? And they really want to get into syndications, and there's a lot of different philosophies on that, right? So some people would say, go big, go home, and other people would say, and I would be more on the camp of, start with a duplex, maybe then a 4-unit, then double. But what would you say, in terms of the kind of investor that a woman needs to be, because that's our focus here. A woman needs to be in order to be that sponsor. They want to get there. They want to really be the helm of these apartment building kind of syndications. Like, what kind of investor do they need to be? Like, what does that look like in your experience?
I mean, they need to. I'll be right now. I'll be perfectly frank with you. Right now at this point in my life, I would not syndicate anything personally. I'm not saying anybody else shouldn't. I'm talking about Jillian Sidoti should not be syndicating anything right now. And the reason is because I'm a terrible property manager. Not that you're supposed to be really managing your own multifamily property. You're supposed to hire a manager, but I'm terrible at managing that too right now at this point in time. I have kids. Mm-hmm. I have this business that requires a lot of time. I have a lot of other interests and things that are going on. And so I don't have the time to properly syndicate a deal right now. With that being said, so what do you need to do? That doesn't mean you can't have kids and you can't have other interests and you can't have other businesses, but what you do need to have is organization, and you have to have a plan. Quite frankly, if you have the deal, you can syndicate that deal so long as you have the proper plan. And what that means is, do you have a schedule of time of when you're going to communicate with your investors? Do you have a schedule of distributions that you're going to make to your investors? Do you know exactly what your timeline looks like on that particular property? Mm-hmm. If you don't know these things, you shouldn't be syndicating anything. So just to go back to the schedule of time to report to investors, that to me right there is one of the reasons why I shouldn't be syndicating right now, because I'm not sure I could stick to a regular schedule of reporting to investors. And that's huge. And I have a lot of clients who don't regularly report to their investors. And I'll tell you right now, if something goes wrong, those clients of mine are going to have the worst time with their investors, because then their phone's going to start ringing off the hook. Yeah. So it's all about organization. I'm going to report to my investors once per month. Every month at the property, I'm going to do X. It's really about developing really good habits and routines and systems in order to carry out a syndication, because the syndication is not just about running the property. It's also about managing the investors and making sure all the bookkeeping's done. So if you cannot put all those things together, then you shouldn't be doing it. But I assure you, any one of you out there can do this. It's about finding the deal and getting yourself organized.
I think you're making such a good point, because a lot of people, there's a lot of conversations out there talking about how to raise money, how to syndicate a deal, but there's very little about the managing part after that.
Right.
Towards the construction, towards the investors. And that's like, okay, I bought this car, but I have no gas.
Right.
So,
right. Right. And that's exactly it. Like, I'm so excited, but now I can't,
right.
I can't afford. That's such a good analogy. And if you don't have all those pieces in place, like something's going to give. And the worst thing you can do is have an angry mob of investors after you. You don't need experience. I mean, I say that's a very bold statement to make, but you really don't need to have experience. What you really need is to know what you need to do and then follow through on that. So make the plan and then follow through on the plan, and make sure you hit all the vital points within the plan itself. Don't leave out something vital, like communicating when you're going to communicate with your investors. Leaving that out could put you in a terrible situation. So, hit all points. I'm going to do construction or rehab. Here's the phasing. That was a huge part of my job when I was working in the real estate development company, was because we would have these big projects that would have multiple buildings. Like, so it would be 100-unit apartment building amongst, say, 8 buildings, and we're doing a condo conversion. So we would have to phase that. We'd have to know these people have to move out at this time. These people have to move out at this time. Construction's going to start here at this time. Sales are going to start here at this time. It was a huge undertaking to map that out. I'm talking about an extreme situation, but it's no different with a value add multifamily property on a smaller scale. Look, people need somewhere to live. I understand why everybody wants to get into multifamily, because it's the one asset class that's like, it is a necessity. People need shelter. People don't necessarily need self-storage. People don't necessarily need office buildings, especially now, in a world of virtual, but people absolutely need to have somewhere to live.
Absolutely. No, that's a great suggestions and great way of like putting that. The thing that you said I want to just highlight as well is, if you are evaluating a syndicator and they can't send you like a guide of how they deal with their investors. It doesn't have to be a PowerPoint presentation, but it quite honestly should be something in writing. Like, this is what we do with our investors. If they can't send that to you, then that's a red flag, because
absolutely.
Because then they don't even have a plan in place. And, it's funny because, you start to, right from the bat, we always sent like a monthly newsletter and a monthly update to our investors, whether it was small or large. And that has just become even more important. People look for those. And quite honestly, not all we've had investors like opt out of the newsletter, which is funny. I'm like, no, you invested.
Tell me about that.
Why do you opt out? But that's another story. They may just not be interested, but I would be, I was like, what's going on? Why'd you opt out? You're an investor. You have money in this company.
Right? So
but anyway,
we don't care.
Yeah.
But at least you're doing it.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like, at least you're doing it.
You have to do it.
Say, I did it, and,
that's right.
and you opted out. So.
but that's so important that you ask that syndicator. And I'd also ask, I'd also add to your great insight, is not enough investors or potential investors that are looking to passively invest ask about the team. They don't ask, and like they know the person, right? The front of the whomever, right? They know the Johnny Smith, who's the one asking for the money, not asking for the money, but he's presenting. He's like, Mr. Real Estate or Mrs. Real Estate. Awesome. Quite honestly though, if he's running a good business, he's not the only one. He shouldn't be the only one, because if he's good in sales, that means he's probably not good on the analytical side. So not enough, and we talk to potential investors all the time, and not enough of them are asking, what does your team look like? What does your team look like? Boots on the ground. You don't live next to the property. So how do you execute, like you said, what's that plan? But then how are you going to execute it? Who's on your team? What's their experience? What have they done well? I mean, people don't ask any of those questions. They should be. But they don't. So that's another, again, if you're kind of vetting those indicators, which I know a lot of ladies are, make sure you ask those questions. Ask those, what's your team look like? What's your communication plan look like? When am I going to get my K1? That's important. You know,
and that should all be outlined. Like, look, you guys should be getting a pile of paperwork, especially with a syndication.
Yes.
You should be getting a massive pile of paperwork that really talks about all that is that is going to happen, how it's going to happen, what it's all going to look like. These things are things that are just should be. You should know all of this stuff as an investor by the time you write a check.
Yeah.
If you are not, and especially for a syndication, I'm not talking about single family residences. You should still be getting. You should still be getting paperwork for that. You should still have something in writing. Do not just give people money without having something in writing. And you people who want to be sponsors or are taking money from investors, do not be taking money from investors without having something in writing, because I will tell you right now, investors are just as dangerous as bad investors are just as dangerous as bad sponsors. And so, for example, if you don't get something that, or present your investor with something in writing, no matter how small the deal is, and something goes wrong or it doesn't exactly turn out the way the investor expected, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to say, but you said, and it's going to be something you never said or didn't mean, or they misinterpreted it. And you don't want that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know you have a lot of experience in this area. Where do you find to be like the most, hidden way to find, potential investors? I know there's a lot, talked about, we teach a lot about it, but I'm curious from your perspective, from like the attorney perspective,
Sure.
What have you seen to be like one strategy the ladies listening could just kind of keep an eye out for, like in terms of really developing their private money base, if you will?
That's okay. Such a great question. So if ladies, as in particular, if you like to dress up, have I got the opportunity for you? My number one suggestion of where to find investors is charitable events. So if if you get like an invitation, I just got one the other night to like,
it's a great suggestion. Actually,
actually a very random event, to a brain mapping society is doing a black tie event up in LA. And it's stuff like that, where they're like, buy a dinner for $100 and we'll give you some dried chicken. But you know what? You're sitting with people who spent $100 on dried chicken and have disposable income to do that.
Yeah.
So this is a great place to start meeting people who are not necessarily like I just said, it was a brain mapping event. These are all doctors. All of them are like brain surgeons, oncologists, things like that, that I'm going to be sitting with, or I'm actually not going to the event, so I shouldn't say I'm going to be sitting with, but I was invited to this event to sit with these doctors who, are probably not in real estate. I got another one this week, to a animal sanctuary. People who have disposable income to, pay $125 for a vegan meal at a local winery because they love animals so much, but they have the disposable income to take care of it. Yeah. So, any one of those people, might be interested in what I have to say about real estate.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't mean you go into a charitable event and just immediately start, hey, let me tell you about my real estate business.
Yeah.
You're just networking. You're just gathering information. You're just meeting people. You're getting to know people. That's it.
Fantastic. Fantastic suggestion.
with you.
Fantastic suggestion. I love that, because you're right. Those are the folks that are there and they want to invest in real estate, but they don't have the time, but they have the money, which is perfect for the people listening, because you have the time. So
yeah,
that
exactly.
We have to have you on again, Jillian. I need like a part 2, right, Andressa?
Yes.
We need totally. I'm not even joking. We need part 2. We have to put that on the calendar again, because there's like 95 questions that we didn't even get to that I would love to dive in with you. So thank you so much. But before we go there in our fabulous 3, where can the ladies listening learn more about your amazing practice? Because Jillian and her team are fantastic. She did not pay me to say that. They really are her whole team. So we've worked with them on syndications. They are absolutely fantastic. So where can the ladies learn more about you guys?
They can go to crowdfundinglawyers.net. We have a ton of free information on there. I would start there. We have free articles, webinars, all kinds of great stuff. And like I said, there's a bunch of us over here, so you'll get a different variety of, a different variety of how we all talk, and the message is pretty much the same. But if you don't like my message, we have 3 other people who have messages too.
That's awesome. All this information is going to be on our show notes. Now we're going to transition to our fabulous 3 question. And
okay.
The first one is, what's the most transformational book you have ever read?
Oh, I think I'm in the middle of reading it right now. I'm not even joking.
Wow.
It's called The Power of Habit. And I almost didn't read it because I was like, well, I know you need to have good habits. You should write down your goals, blah, 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 but I will tell you right now, I'm not even halfway through the book. I took some of the advice in this book, or just, put some of the techniques into place in my home over the weekend. I went to my kids' classroom on Monday, and the teacher said my son had one of the best days he's ever had.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's on
so
my
the power
list.
of habit. Yeah.
I just wrote it down.
I'm only I've actually gone backwards in the book and read a couple of chapters over again already, not even having been through the book, because it's been that transformational just this week.
Beautiful. Awesome. The second question is, what's the most powerful routine you do to create a financially free and balanced life?
It's funny. I don't know if this has anything to do with financial freedom, but one of the things I do is that if I'm not traveling, I bring my children to school every day, and I pick them up from school every day. Even though my husband's a stay-at-home dad, he could totally do it. He'd be happy to do it for me. I make that time to make sure I'm having that connection with them in the morning and in the afternoon. Even if I have to come back to the office, which I often do after I pick them up from school, I still do that.
I love that. The last question is, which women, famous or not, has inspired you the most?
It's funny. I would have to definitely say it's my aunt. She's a constant source of calm and spirituality, and just a very giving person of both her time and money, and I just think she's awesome.
Awesome. Very cool.
Great.
Jillian, thank you so much for being on our show and sharing all your wonderful insight with the ladies listening and our community. So we really super appreciate your time and expertise.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. I can't wait for part 2.
Oh, there we go. Can't wait for that too. Thank you so much, Jillian.
Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share it with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.
Ciao.